Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to Coffee Talk! Okay, let's talk today about drone wars. Dun dun dun. So, as many of you know, there have been reports of swarms and formations of drones over eastern Colorado and the Kansas, middle of the country area there. People have been reporting, if you haven't heard the news, they've been reporting seeing drones flying individually, flying in formation, flying in grid patterns over rural areas of Colorado and over into Kansas. It's kind of all around that area there. Now, people are saying that some of them are fixed wing and have as big as 6-foot wingspans. People have reported following them and chasing them in their vehicles at speeds of over 70 miles an hour and being unable to catch them. And so some of the excuses that, well, first of all, the government denies that it's theirs. They're saying these are not military drones. State, federal, and military sources are saying, we don't know anything about these drones. In fact, it's said that the FBI is investigating the drones. Dun dun dun. They need a Steele dossier so they can impeach the drones. Sorry, it's really early here. It's 6:55 this morning. Who knows when it'll be when I get this loaded up, but right now it's really early. But yeah, it made me want to talk about the concept of drones. A lot of people are saying that these drones are part of the upcoming Civil War. Dun dun dun. No one seems to offer an idea of who they might be other than it's the government. But here's an idea. Maybe it's the deep state. Maybe these are FBI drones and the FBI investigation is bogus. They're just saying that to make you feel better. Maybe it's CIA or NSA drones. Maybe they're looking and mapping out the farms of Colorado, so when they pull their move in Colorado like they are in Virginia, they'll know where all of these eastern Colorado pro-Second Amendment people live and have it all mapped out and have all their drone runs over their properties all timed out, because that's the thing we're going to face if there's a civil war and it's the American people against the deep state. They're going to use drones on us. They're going to drone strike our houses. Look at what the military just did in Iraq to that Iranian general. Precision strike, one car, pulverized. So a lot of people are starting to try to wrap their mind around the idea of drone warfare. I will say this, a Remington Versamax with as long a barrel as you can come up with is probably your best defense against drones. The problem is even a shotgun designed to take down flying objects, well, birds, drones, same. These are only good up to a certain level, and these drones are flying way high. Now, during Vietnam, many of our aircraft were shot up by the Viet Cong. Most of the Viet Cong were 14, 15-year-old boys armed with AK-47s. And they had what's called the rule of thumb. These Viet Cong would hold their thumb up and look at the aircraft. And if the aircraft was big enough to stick out around their thumb when they looked through their thumb at the aircraft, like sighting it, if they could block the entire aircraft out with their thumb, then they realized it was too far away and it was a waste of ammunition and they couldn't hit it. But if their thumb wouldn't completely cover it and at least the wings stuck out, at least part of the aircraft stuck out from behind their thumb, then they would go ahead and shoot at it because it was within range. So remember that rule of thumb. So this makes me want to tell you a couple of stories that pertain to this coffee talk. One of them is a dream that I had. Now, some of you are going to say, oh, well, he's having a dream now when, he just says it was years ago. But take my word for it. I promise you, I had a dream probably 16, 17, 18 years ago, maybe almost 20 years ago, that in the dream, and now keep in mind 20 years ago I didn't really know what a drone was. Even when I would tell people about this dream that I had later on for years, I wouldn't say drone because I didn't know that's what I was seeing. I would say remote control airplanes. And So in this dream, I saw these remote control airplanes in the sky, flying in formation, much like what they're talking about, these drones in Colorado. They were flying in formation, and I thought it was really weird, and I was like, why are all of these, I'm driving, I'm out in the country in Texas, and I'm driving in this dream, and so I kind of pull over, and I'm watching these drones, and then out of nowhere comes a military jet, and it looks like it's going to come and attack those drones, and then suddenly it just kind of loses power, turns straight up like this, and just nosedives into the earth and blows up, right? Just plowed into a field. I could see it. Dust blowing up, fire and smoke. It's done. It's toast, right? And I'm like, why did that airplane just crash into the hayfield? What was that about? And then pretty soon, I see even higher up now, a commercial airline. It's like a 747. It's folded up the same way, and it's just nosediving straight to the earth. Boom! It just blows up. And I began to realize that these drones, didn't know they were drones, they were remote control airplanes. These remote control airplanes must be transmitting some kind of jamming signal that's, or some kind of EMP that's causing our aircraft to be ineffective. And as these drones fly over, 2 or 3 more jets come into range, and before they can attack these drones, they just nosedive up and just hit the dirt. And so I jammed to the school, right? And I'm warning everybody at the school, hey, something's going on. And even as I'm warning them, I'm seeing more military aircraft coming after these drones. I even see an aircraft fire a missile from a distance and blow one of these drones up just to fold its own wings up and nosedive. So this is a post-apocalyptic or Civil War dream I had before I knew to call them drones, okay? when they were remote control airplanes in my mind. And so it brings me to a recent experience. Now this story is not a dream. This is an actual experience from this summer. When my son was here with me, he was out doing he just drove and drove and drove, bless his heart. That's all he could do. He was having a hard time, and so all he could do was drive. He just drove and drove. He spent $1,000 on gas and Whataburger. While he was here, he just ran the wheels off that car. And so I often didn't know where he was at. I'd just sit home and worry about him a lot. And so I was going into town to get some groceries. And I'm driving between Parker County and Mineral Wells is in Palo Pinto County? I think so. Anyway, between Weatherford and Mineral Wells. And I noticed this formation of jet fighters. And man, they are moving out, and they're low to the ground, and they are hauling it. And I was looking at it, and I'm like, man, they're flying in tight formation. Like there's about a dozen of them, or maybe 8 or 10 of them, and their wings are almost touching. And when one turns, they all turn. And I don't mean, it's like the best flying in formation I have ever seen. In fact, they'll twist and turn and fly through the sky and do acrobatics, and I'm just watching them. I'm just driving down the road going, what am I seeing, right? And when they come really close over the top of me to the point where I can see that they're blue with yellow markings, and they look just like the Blue Angels. And I'm thinking, am I watching the Blue Angels? Are they getting ready for some Fort Worth air show out here? I do know that I live in an area where military aircraft fly overhead quite often. You can hear my story about a neighbor that was a colonel and flew an F-16, and he would fly over his own house because we live in their play zone. So I'm just thinking, hey, this is the Blue Angels. The Blue Angels are out here, and they're doing their rehearsals, right? Except when they do some things that I'm thinking, man, that just doesn't look possible. I think it would kill the passenger, the pilot, that they make such sudden turns and such quick turns, and all together, all 8 or 10 or 12 of them, however many there were, they're all just moving like. Have you ever seen those migratory blackbirds that move in one giant thing? Like sometimes they look like the finger of God flying around like this. Like they'll change shapes and stuff as this whole group and they just doing all these tricks and stuff. That's how these drones were doing. Like they would change formations in mid-turn and change the shape of their, and it was just the most amazing. I almost drove off the road watching them, right? And when they flew over my head and I could see that they were blue with yellow trim, and they just looked like They look like the Blue Angels, but then I realized there's no cockpit. There's no windows. They're just kind of a triangular wing, and there's nothing to them. And then when they're flying also so close over my head, I'm like, wait a minute. Where's the jet wash? Where's the rumble? Why am I not hearing the jet scream as they go over the head? And then it dawns on me. I'm watching drones. These are drones. These must be military drones. And so I thought, no big deal. It's military drones. And then the more I think about it, I'm like, why would military drones be flying so close over the highway, right? And then when my kid gets home, he's like, okay, so maybe my condition's getting worse and I'm seeing stuff, because I saw these jets and they were following me. They were following me down the highway. And he had a little different experience where they seemed to be doing maneuvers, and he said that they were hovering. Now, he said they were hovering and they were watching him, he felt like. Now, he might be paranoid. Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you. But it really freaked him out when I said, well, what were they noisy? Did you hear them? And he goes, there was no sound. Why was there no sound? Why was there no sound at all? So, you know, drones don't make much noise. They have little bitty motors because they got little bitty wingspans, you know, compared to giant aircraft. They're, you know, they don't have the giant roaring jet engines. So that was a really disturbing thing for both of us. I just chalked it up to the military, where I thought, you know what, because they're going so close over the road and stuff and they're flying so low, they can't be military. It's got to be some individual. You know, he was probably over in a field with the remote control, and he probably had it set up so he's controlling the whole swarm with one joystick, right, with one controller, is what I was thinking. So to put my mind at ease, I thought, I'm going to just research this. I'm sure if I click in, you know, drone swarms flying in formation, that these guys that do this, these individuals, you know, that's what I figured. They're just some guy with some money and a hobby. These hobbyists are going to have on, you know, YouTube all the pictures of all their great looking, you know, blue and yellow fixed wing drones flying in formation like blackbirds, doing all kinds of tricks. And when I Googled it, I couldn't find nothing. I could find lots of people flying individual drones. I could find the quadcopter drones doing formation stuff and doing the, like you see for light shows now. They make them, instead of fireworks, they have light shows done by drones. But those are quadcopter drones that hover, and they're not fast-moving drones, and they're not acrobatic drones. They're like little mini helicopters. And that's what most of your drones are, fixed-wing drones flying in formation. I couldn't find anything on the internet. Now, if you can, that'd be great. Set my mind at ease. But these had to be military. They had to be something special. And even when I looked for military drones flying in formation doing these acrobats, I couldn't find anything. Now, is this some new Blue Angel thing that they're getting ready for the next, to unveil in the next air show? Potentially. Potentially. But I do find it interesting that this is probably within Texas, the Parker County area, and yeah, pretty much this area here is filled with the richest pro-Second Amendment people in America, more than likely. These people that live out here have so much money. I joke, but it's true, that, you know, my property and house and everything might be worth $100,000, okay, on Texas market. But when I look out in the field and I see all of these cutting horses, and I know for a fact, that just one of those prize cutting horse blooded mares that give birth to all these champion cutting horses, just one of those is worth $150,000. That you can easily look out in the field and see $1 million on hooves, you know, just out there in the field, $1 million of horse flesh in one eyeful. So, are they preparing to go after rural people with drone strikes? They being the deep state? What's actually happening in Colorado? Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone will probably talk about the best way to shoot them down. I will say this: if you shoot a drone down, you will probably be investigated. Although, if these mystery drones are not connected to the government and they're acting somehow without the government's permission and doing some secret maneuvers out there, and you shoot one down in Colorado, I mean, will you get investigated, or will you just, you know, take a chunk out of their pocketbook? What will they do? Will they turn you in? Will they come back and say, Will that solve the mystery? Maybe that's what's going to take to solve the mystery in Colorado. Somebody willing to commit a federal offense and shoot down one of these pilotless autonomous drones. But having watched these drones, the ones I saw in action out here on that bright sunny afternoon, flying at just above treetop level, I don't care what kind of weapon you had, shooting one of them fast-moving boogers down would not be an easy thing, and it'd just really honestly be a matter of luck. It'd be a matter of having enough ammo to throw enough lead in the air that maybe you could somehow catch them in a net of lead. But being able to just systematically shoot one of them, I'm a pretty good wing shooter. Nobody can beat my kid. My kid should have went to the Olympics in shooting or archery or something. He was such an amazing gunman and archer. And I'm sure he could probably shoot one down maybe with a bow and arrow. I couldn't. I don't know. I'm lucky to get 2 of 3 clays tossed up, you know. I'm lucky I'm about 50-50 on wing shooting. Let me put it this way, I'll shoot a whole box of shells at dove season and only get 4 or 5 of them little boogers because they fly so fast. And I think these drones fly a lot faster than Texas doves and at a much higher, higher up. So tell me what you think. Are they watching us? Are they gritting out their attack? Is this deep state? Is this just an oil and gas company in Colorado trying to figure out where they want to do their fracking? And why has it gone on so long now? It's been going on for several months. People have been talking about these drones flying over Colorado. And I have seen drones here in Texas mysteriously behaving. Have you seen drones flying in your rural area? Are you a drone flying activist? Do you have a swarm of these drones and you're going to set my mind at ease and say, oh yeah, we got them. You just went to the wrong YouTube channel. Here, go to this YouTube channel and you can see the Blue Angel drones that you saw out there in West Texas. That'd be nice. I did my level best to try to find something on them, and I couldn't find anything. So it's a giant mystery. It's worthy of a coffee talk. Tell me what you think. Are the swarm of robot drones coming to get us? We need to pull the plug if we want to live. God save our republic.